Hi, Zizaran here with another video, and I'm basically making an updated Craft the Build for the INT stacker. The website Craft of Exile have made a really good emulator, and I'm going to start using it to show you guys basically how I craft items, get an idea of how to craft the INT stacker. Now, a fair word of warning, this is a very expensive build, or if you want to craft the items yourself, it is hard to do so. You need a large amount of Deafening Essence of Spite. I want to make a fair warning. This is something I recommend having 200x or higher, but it could be a really cool project for you. We can look a little bit about my items and compare, and then I'm going to show how to craft them. Now, I actually have a better way of crafting this than what I did, because I just got obscenely lucky. So we're going to do one-handed Vand, and we want an imbued one. That's the best one, because it has really high attack speed, and that is the main thing we care about. Now, if at all possible, try to get an item level 68. This limits some of the chaos prefixes you can get and will make it better. The wand is probably the most expensive thing to craft anyway, so you want to get as big an advantage as you can. So it's a hunter wand, item level 68, 28 quality. So we start off, we can bless the item up to 37. Do you know, this doesn't really matter, and it'll just add to the history, so whatever. But either way, we're going to start with an essence. We are going to start with a Deafening Essence of Wrath. Deafening Essence of Wrath. There's some things I discovered while playing around with this. So what I am looking for now, I am going to be looking for either fire or cold damage. Perfect. So this is an example of a really good start, and it took me 3 wraths to get there. Now I want to go harvest, and I want to remove caster. The reason for that is I want an open prefix. And the number one thing I'm going to do now is I am going to bench craft. Cannot roll caster modifiers. So now I have the fire damage. Cold damage would be fine here as well. Lightning damage is not okay. And then I have damage over time multiplier. That's whatever. We can fix the suffixes later. But either way, so I have the Deafening Essence of Wrath and fire damage. This basically acts like a blocker, because we want to block percentage lightning damage. I don't want to end up with my finished weapon having like 10% fire damage. That's not what I want. So once we have this, I do augment and I do lightning, and I'm most likely going to hit oh yeah, we'll fill up the suffix with whatever. That'll either hit lightning resist or lightning damage. But now I'm most likely going to hit lightning is extra chaos, or the mod that I want. So this is 66% chance. So you have a 30, I think it's around 30% chance to hit the one you want. And what we need to do now, and this is why the wand is pretty expensive, is I need to do remove chaos, augment lightning until this hits. So now it was only 3 tries, and you can see here it says the chance, it's a 33% chance, and that is surprisingly good odds compared to what I did. So yeah, really decent chance here. You fairly doable on Trade League. I think a wand like the one I have costs like 50 to 70 souls to buy. You can make it cheaper than that with these instructions. I would estimate the wand is probably going to cost you between 10 to 30 exalts, depending on how lucky you are. So now we have this. Now we can remove fire. So the fire is gone. So now there's a couple of choices. You could do augment lightning. This is very likely. You aren't very likely to hit lightning as extra chaos now, and it's also not the best modifier. So what you can do now is you can go to prefixes and you can craft the penetration mod, which is a large amount of damage. You could also clean the suffixes and multi-mod. I'm not a huge fan of that, but that is doable too. So we'll show both. On Trade League, I would probably spend a little bit extra currency and make it a really beefy one. But let's show the budget option. So the budget option would be, we're going to do prefixes cannot be changed. I'm going to scour it, and now I have this. So now that we have scoured the item, I would recommend going here, cannot roll caster modifiers, and then we're going to go back to harvest, augment critical, and we're hoping to get tier 2 or tier 1 crit chance, just to show if you get a lower one or something else, you would do basically this until you're happy with your crit. You could go for tier 1 as well. There, tier 2 crit chance, we're going to keep that. Now I remove, I cannot roll caster mods. I do multi-mod, and I will do attack speed. We have tier 1 attack speed, which is 1x. And I do attacks with this weapon penetrate, resist. This is a completely awesome weapon for this build, and something that would probably cost you a large amount. Now, there is another thing you can do as well. Let's undo all the crafts here. Now, we can just do back to cannot roll caster mods. We do cannot roll caster mods, and we can do augment speed. And this becomes pretty expensive, but is obviously going to be a better one. We can do cannot roll speed. And then now, this is, I think from what someone told me, they are like 5x on softcore. And obviously what you can see, like a really, really good one is easily going to be over 70 to 100x here. And then you replace, boom, best case scenario, it's a 6% chance to hit that high roll. This is obviously a lot better than a crafted attack speed and will make a big difference for the build. Now you do augment critical. Sorry, augment critical, and you replace that until you have, if you're going for this, a large wand, I would say you want tier 1 crit chance, which could be a very, very big investment, but at least tier 2. You see the cannot roll caster mods coming in clutch here and removing our chance to get spell crit. Any day now. Imagine if this was my real currency, I'd be upset. There. Now that we have this, you can do the prefix craft, which is the that one. And now you're going to augment critical again and be really, really sad if you hit spell crit. Because that's like kind of annoying. You'll have to boom. Now I will have to remove caster, but thankfully like it's not unfixable. So now you just do remove caster and augment critical until you hit decent crit multi. But that caster mod there is really, really annoying. So let's say we hit tier 2 crit multi there. This is how people are making a lot of the really, really endgame ones. Obviously, this is showing some of why it is so expensive to make these, but hopefully the budget version will come in handy for some people. So I'm gonna export the histories here as well, so that people can import the step-by-step and see that in the history. Now, let's next up cover how I made my gloves. The gloves, I grab a, yep. Let's see, I grab a sorcerer glove. INT, sorcerer, and you need item level 85. That's pretty important, and you want it to be elder. Now, what I do here is I use deafening essence of spite, and you can throw some around and hope to get something useful, like another good stat. Getting one of the socketed by is really, really good. I don't think I had any of those myself, but you know, at least you could do this. Now, what I usually would play around with would be using the harvest non-type to type on attack, and I would be hoping to hit attack speed. You could also do non-speed to speed, but then you can hit that. So it is, the gloves were really annoying to make. I don't know if there is a really, really good way to make them, but at least I found that it was really, really hard to get this mod, which is what I want, and it took a few attempts there. So now this is like a really, really great thing. We have the faster projectiles, we have the faster attack. This is better than the glove I have right now. It's a pain to get faster attacks. I settled for faster accuracy, and I was clearing monsters fast enough anyway, and actually do have an accuracy problem, so it was okay for me to just be a little bit slower. Now, the critical is thankfully a lot easier. I just do augment critical, and boom, first try. It's a 33% chance, but obviously if you don't hit it on the first try, you just replace until you get the high one, right? So that is actually that is the easy part, is to get the critical. So that's nice. Once you have that, you can do, you can play around with the defenses. You could go for damage. You could craft something. Most likely what I would do in this case is I would do replace defense until it hits something decent that I'm happy with. There, tier 2 energy shield, and now I'm going to bench craft flat energy shield on this item, and I am pretty happy with my craft. I have 150. I would like divine it perfectly, and yeah, this is a pretty nice glove. I think I used something like 10 to 15 spites, and I ended up having to use quite a lot of non-attack to attack. The gloves weren't too hard and not too easy either. Should not be one of the more expensive pieces, at least. The belt, I'm not even going to show. I literally just threw a Deafening Essence of Spite, and I just kept spite. And I was like, you know what? This is good enough. Another thing that's really, really good for this build, you can use Cyclopean Coil. Once you get it to 15% attributes and you have 20 intrinsic catalysts on it, it's 18% attributes. And some immunities and damage as well. And some people like using Oxium as well, but it is a large amount of int from a belt like this. So I'd rather have that. Oxium, especially if you have an extra power charge or something on your helmet, I could see that being really good. The boots, I don't necessarily recommend boots like this. The best thing would be Tailwind int boots, but you know, like that is literally going to be probably 100, maybe 200x for your boots. I am sort of working on it, but I haven't been able to get anything with Tailwind and Intelligence. I managed to get these, which I'm sure as hell not rolling over, because Tailwind is the stupidest thing I've ever tried to roll, and I love it. But either way, there are some really, really cool things you can do here. So I've been experimenting, and I definitely would not do this on Tailwind, but on more common rolls that are easier to get, you can do it. There is a harvest mod, which we can't simulate in the Craft of Exile, but it reads something like reforge the item, more likely to get similar modifiers. And I'm going to show, I used that on my chest, I used it on my shield, and I also used it on my boots, I believe, because this is not a Deafening Essence of Spite. And I basically I wanted Onslaught, because I didn't really have a really good searching eye with Onslaught. And I was like, you know what? If I can replace my Onslaught jewel with like a quad attack speed jewel, that seems like really, really good for me. So I rolled until I got Onslaught, and I crafted Intelligence on it just with the normal workbench. And again, I'm sad we can't simulate this, but yeah, that's basically what I did. So I have a boot with whatever, and then it has crafted Intelligence and Onslaught, and then I did that craft. I did reroll the item, more likely to roll the same thing, and I got up to tier 2 Intelligence here with the Onslaught on kill, and now the prefixes on a Redeemer boot is very, very easy to make because it is the only critical prefix. So I just did the other craft, which we can show in Craft of Exile, but it's like this one. It's like the reforge a rare item, keeping suffixes. I did that, so I was re-rolling the prefixes until I hit a decent movement speed. I would have preferred 30 or something like that, but it's a bit of a pain to get, and I never get augment speeds on Soul Self-Fun. So that's what I did, and then once you have the movement speed, the rest is so easy. I did just augment critical, and then I crafted some flat energy shield. So this gives me both elusive and onslaught from my boots. I found that really, really nice, especially for how easy they were to make. I do have a shield that I'm working on here, and I was impressed with how easy this was to make. So I have a pretty okay shield. I did Deafening Essence of Spite, and I hit tier 4 spell block, and I was like, you know what? That'll do. That's great. Well, it's basically a tier 2, because it kind of is only 2 tiers. But either way, 9% spell block in tier 1 int from the Deafening Essence. I was like, ooh, that's great. I'll keep that. But there is a really, really good way to make these beastly shields. I'm working on the prefixes right now. And this is the same method with Reforge, more likely to get what was on it before. So what we did here is I rolled until I got any spell block. And on a Shaper Shield, there are 4, because you can normally roll spell block, and there is Shaper spell block as well. So any is fine. That didn't matter. I rolled until any spell block, and then I crafted int. And then I did reroll the item, more likely to hit the same thing. And after like 2 or 3 tries, I got tier 1 spell block, tier 1 int. I haven't experimented enough with this, so I don't know how many attempts it'll take, but I know a lot of my friends are also using this to pretty high success. So this seems very, very strong. And again, I never want to do this on something that is really hard to roll, like Tailwind, so low weight. It is really rare. Because Crusader Explosion. Never want to do that. It's never going to roll it again. I'm assuming what that stat does, the reroll, more likely to do the same. My best educated guess is that it adds 100 to the weight and fossils add 10. That's my educated guess. We don't fully know. However, now I have an item which basically had bullshit prefix. It had like, you know, spell damage or something. I don't know what the prefixes were. They're not important for this. But they were full. And then I had an open suffix, which is perfect. Sometimes you might have to remove it. And if you get something really unlucky, like rarity, you'll have to annul it. But either way, I had an open suffix and full prefixes. And the really, really good thing, and this we can show here real quick in Craft of Exile, but the really, really good thing here is that they are then guaranteed to get it. So let's just put my shield in, right? And the stats we already have. Hopefully it's like easier to follow when I'm like showing the item. I know like I can talk a little bit fast and stuff like that. This is our shield. And let's just throw in some prefixes that we don't care about. Now, watch this. This is beautiful. Augment defense. Boom! 100% of the time is the only thing it can hit. It's the only defense suffix. So now I can divine my suffixes until I'm happy with them. Then I do reroll, keeping suffixes. And I do this until I get one decent energy shield. So let's see how long that'll take us. So this is one decent energy shield, and you have two things you can do here. You can do augment defense. You could also exalt the item randomly. I'll explain why in a second, but you could exalt the item and then craft one. But let's see. Let's explain this first. Augment defense. Boom. Now, this is a bad thing, right? Now, I'm most likely going to start over. If you do have replace defense to defense, you could try that as well. But most likely, this is going to happen, right? The other thing you could do here as well, if maybe you have a bunch of non-defense to defense, what you can do is this. Okay, that was not supposed to hit energy shield. That's too lucky. Realistically, not happening. There, perfect mana. That's what I wanted to hit. Now I have benchcraft life, and I'll explain how this works. So it's maybe sometimes more common to get the harvest craft non-type to type defense, right? That means remove non-defense and defense. And again, we already have the only defense suffix that can exist, so we can't touch our suffixes. They're safe. So when I click this now, it's going to remove the life or the mana and add defense. So that is like a way that if you don't have just augments or replace, you can use the non-type to type as well. And the reason that works is because there are no other suffixes it can add. But you do have to fill it up too. Because something that you could fuck up here, if you weren't 100% sure what we're doing, if you did it here, now, if you do augment non-type to type, now it can remove the intelligence or spell block. Because the prefixes aren't full. And the reason it works like this is because when the prefixes are full, it can never remove our intelligence to add a fourth prefix. So hopefully this makes sense. That's why I'm using Craft of Exile to try to give more visual examples. Crafting is so like insane in Path of Exile, and I just want to try to help people as best as I can. But let's roll until we get a really, really good item. This would be great. We have 330, and we can divine this higher, obviously. We can divine this to maybe even 380, 390 with proper quality. So now we have a really, really good shield. I'll export that as well. That is a really, really nice shield and cool to make. And we are going to employ the same for the chest. This might be a little bit harder to roll. I got fairly lucky with it. Same thing here. I roll for any percentage intelligence. And then craft the intelligence, and we do reroll int more likely to get the same. Now, the intelligence isn't super common, so you are likely to lose it, but it's probably the best odds you have of making a chest like this. I would stop probably on tier 3 or higher int, and you want the tier 1 percentage int. So now that we have that, I didn't get a good suffix, sadly, right? Maybe you get something that's removable, but I ended up with stun and block recovery. I'm happy with my chest. I'm not touching it. Now we're going to do the prefixes. So let's import and remake my chest in Path of Building, and I'll show you what are going to be my next steps. And now there are 3 things I can do. With my exact chest, I am going to do non-physical to physical twice. Or if you had no prefixes, then you can just augment physical 3 times. Let's look at that. Boom. Because the reason for that is there are only 3 phys prefixes. And if I had, like, let's say we had mana or something, just as a quick example so people understand how it works, then I would do non-type to type physical. It's going to remove the mana and add the last phys mod that exists on the chest. If you do have an armor chest, there is a phys suffix too, I believe. Now I want to do a null physical and hope that it takes the phys reflect, which it didn't. Now we have to put them back on. So there's going to be some back and forth here, but eventually you will get rid of the phys reflect. And then now it's super easy because we do the lightning. Now I'm going to do augment defense, and that's actually pretty okay. I could keep that, or I can play around with defense to defense until I get tier 1. It is surprisingly high weight, low weight, so it's actually not unreasonable to get tier 1 flat. And now I can finish it off either by doing a big dick YOLO and doing augment. This is what's going to happen then. Most of the time, as you can see, but sometimes you'll have this happen and you have a really, really nice chest. However, the crafted prefix is not that much worse, so that is what I'm going to take. And then, whoops, that is not crafted, that is flat. Bench, prefix, flat energy shieldium. And then you see you're just losing like 60 flat energy shield, and it's not perfectly divined yet. So here we have a really, really nice chest, and this is surprisingly reasonable to make. I do have a worse one myself. I basically did the explosion first, and then just rerolled suffixes, hoping for int and percentage int. It never came. I just got flat int, and I do want a better chest. So, yeah. Rings, what I did was I would use, I just used any item level 85 or 86, whatever ring. I would then throw Deafening Essence of Spite on the ring, and there is a Harvest Craft. I think it's a purple seed, and it's basically fracture suffixes. You need at least 3 suffixes. And I got this nice ring here, and after that I just used the way fracture works is that no matter what I do to this ring, that 68 intelligence is always going to be there. So like it can't be divined, it can't be annulled, nothing can remove that. And that's really, really nice because then I could just use Reforge with attack until I hit tier 1 elemental damage to attacks, and then you just play around with adding other things to it. This is what I've currently got. I'm going to do augment lightning next, and then remove lightning, add lightning until I have really, really high lightning to attacks. Other than that, I also want to get accuracy because I currently have a chance to hit problem. For my other ring, this is really, really hard. I got very, very lucky on this. Let's see if we can re-emulate my ring, my Crusader ring here. And the Crusader ring is probably the best for endgame rings. Well, let's try to emulate what I did here. I did get very, very lucky, so I'm not sure I'm able to. Let's say that I have an item level 85, 86 is fine. Crusader ring, and I used Deafening Essence of Spite. Now, what I'm looking for here is basically something that's removable on the suffixes or intelligence and attributes. That would be the #1 thing I'm looking for here. Something that's easy to remove. So this is best case scenario. But if you can just remove the other suffixes, that's fine as well, because accuracy or attack speed or whatever would be a good suffix too. But this is best case scenario. I hit tier 1 attributes and tier 1 int. I am now going to remove the fire. Annul fire, boom. Next up, I am going to do augment caster because all the curses are caster now. You might benefit quite a lot from putting something as a prefix now just to like block it. So let's just put life. Sure. Boom. There. Now the next one is going to be a suffix, and I got that one. Now it's basically a case of just replacing this until I hit conductivity. Maybe you want tier 1. And ideally, if you can, filling up the prefixes by something that's not caster, so you're not wasting any of your rerolls on the prefix, would be the best case scenario. So, for example, for me now, like an even easier ring to fix here. Let's see, we're gonna just augment, sure, attack. There, we just like threw, maybe I did the reroll, like reroll keeping suffixes. until the prefixes are full, but either way, I fill up the prefixes so that I can easily reroll the suffixes. And a word of note about this, if this, let's show it. If this is like this, and I reforge an item keeping suffixes, it can add a suffix. It will keep the two existing ones, but it can add a new one. Not everybody knows that, so I wanted to make sure you do know that. But either way, fill up the prefixes, and then I augment caster, and I replace caster until I have tier 1 conductivity, or at least tier 2. There. Took a while, and tier 2 is okay. Tier 1 is harder. Not sure what the actual percentage chance of hitting tier 1 is. Tier 2 is a 18% chance, and tier 1 is a 9% chance. Now, we can reroll the prefixes. We can do the reroll, keeping suffixes, and we could hope that we get something really, really good. I would at least try to get one good stat, and then augment the others on. So maybe you're hoping to get energy shield, or maybe you're hoping to get some like high elemental damage. Maybe you have a lot of power charges. I only have like 8. 9 or 10 would probably make that stat better. But you can play around with reforging suffixes. That's still what I'm doing on mine. I have mana here, which I don't want. So I'm still going to keep rerolling the suffixes. I should currently just craft flat lightning on mine. Let's talk about the amulet. This was insane RNG, and I kind of decided to do the build just because I was lucky enough to hit such a nice amulet. So I have a Lapis amulet here. Obviously, Lapis is important because we want as much INT as possible. We have Crusader. Animal 100 is fine. Doesn't matter. You want at least 85 or 86. This is a hard one. So, if you look at mine has all res, it has intelligence and percentage intelligence. And there's not really a great way that I'm aware of hitting percentage intelligence, except for prayer. Prayer is gonna help you a lot here. Pray to Chris and hope for the best. So what I would try to experiment with here, which we're gonna look here now and theorycraft this together. But let's say I think I used 30 or 40 spites on my amulet. I can't remember. But let's say that I hit some open suffixes here. There, this is fine. So I'll benchcraft a prefix. Let's see. I think probably, realistically, the best bet is most likely going to be harvest, augment, influence. That is a 11% chance. This is most likely your best bet of ever hitting it. You need to be very, very careful here for this step that you don't have any influence prefixes and you have no other influence suffixes. Because if I didn't hit it here on the first try, what I would be doing next would be replace influence. And you can see that it isn't super likely to hit the intelligence. This is still the best bet. Being able to hit tier 1 or tier 2 is something I would probably keep. I'm not 100% sure what the chance of tier 2 is. We can keep spamming until it hits tier 2 intelligence and we can see. There. Tier 2 is a 22% chance and tier 1 was like a 11. So you have a 33% chance to hit either. That isn't too bad, really. It isn't too bad, really. So let's say that we have hit tier 1 intelligence, and now we want to do the prefixes. So this is actually really, really cool. There's a few things we can do here. I rerolled until I hit a decent percentage intelligence. Flat int is probably okay too. And you could also play one with augment defense, but let's do this. And let's say, sure, this is what I want. Now the other ones I have the elemental damage with attacks. You could play around with doing augment attack and then remove, replace attack until you get, sure, maybe tier 3 is good enough. Now, you can craft percentage intelligence on the last one, and that can be pretty good. However, there is something really, really cool with augment influence here. And there are 2 really, really powerful stats, and all the other ones are lightning. So I can safely, assuming you don't have a lightning resist suffix, you can now safely always remove that prefix. I can do augment remove like this, and then I can augment influence again until I hit either damage per power charge, and this is probably the worst thing you can hit because this is just 40 to 50 damage. But I want to hit the one that's spell damage per intelligence, which seems to be really rare. This is very, very not fun to roll for. Okay, you know, I was honestly thinking about going for this myself. I am now regretting that, and I will not be going for this. I will probably go for lightning damage leech to life to free up one of my cluster jewels, because the cluster jewel is a fucking pain. Damage pen. This is really good. It's only a 5% chance, sadly. There. Okay, now it hit. So that is a 10% chance to hit, but I did just do like 100 attempts and didn't hit it until now. So, yeah, I don't know. The prefixes are obviously you have a lot more freedom with. You can get the energy shield leech or the life leech. Obviously, life leech works because we have Ghost Reaver, but yeah, either is fine. And this is actually really, really good because if you have like 17 or 1800 int, let's say we have 1700 int, then this is the same as 113 lightning damage or elemental damage. It's a really, really high stat. Some of the other lightning mods are pretty good on it too, and the penetration is really good. But yeah, that is the amulet. Let's look. Is there any more gear left to craft? There is the helmet. So how I made this is I was just throwing some enchants anyway on some normal item level 86 hubris circlets. And on the first hubris circlet I did, I hit power siphon. So this was just a plain helmet, non-influenced. And I actually used a hunter exalted orb. This was my helmet. I had no influence. Item level 1 quality is whatever, and I had used deafening essence of spites, and it looked sure. This is pretty much okay because what resist do I have? Yeah, that's fine. This is great. Now hunter, boom. That's what I did, and we can look a little bit at the percentages. This is a 9% chance. Ooh, lucky. And you could also now. When you have this, you could do replace influence until you get tier 1 int. There's an 18% chance, 36 for tier 2. But as you can see, there are some other ones as well you can hit. So it is a bit of a pain. I hit the intelligence on the augment. So that was pretty lucky. But now that we have this, pretty straightforward. Keep suffixes and reroll until I have maybe one good energy shield is pretty much what I'd be looking for. That's what I got on mine. I think I got one good one. So I wouldn't go for hybrid. I would go for either percentage or flat. There, perfect. Tier 1 energy shield. I augment defense and I hope for the best. That is fine. And then you could either craft something on the last prefix. I ended up crafting energy shield on mine. You could also exalt the last one there. Can't remember if there's anything super useful to craft on helmet, but I don't think so. You could do fizz reduction if you're on hardcore. That is pretty much every gear for the build. We can look a little bit about the jewels and stuff. You need a very large thread of hope. The majority of my jewels, I have just spammed reforge attack until I get shit like this. Attack speed while holding a shield, attack speed with wands, attack and cast speed. Spell damage is good, attributes is good, dex and int is good. I feel like I really need dex. Resist is good so that you can get more damage stuff on other gear. I'm using a Watcher's Eye as well. You don't need this, it's just, you know, I have it, so why not? Here's another one of those, like high attack speed and then some damage with wands. Don't actually need Emperor's Mastery. I'm a little short on dex. If not, I'd probably rather have a quad attack speed jewel. But the cluster jewels, the way you roll this is basically you get one with 8 passive skills, damage while holding a shield, and then you reforge with defense until you basically want 1 with Veteran Defender and drive the destruction, and you want 1 with Veteran Defender and fuel the fight. That is pretty much all the gear I can think of for rolling. The flasks are pretty straightforward, obviously. There's no like crazy tricks there. And I don't think there is anything else. I hope this helps. I hope you guys are enjoying the like more in-depth build help. I'm hoping that with some visual examples, I can try to help get over that hurdle that is crafting in Path of Exile. Obviously, this is a fairly advanced build that not a lot of people are going to do anyway, but I want to do this for other builds I've done. Let me know if this is helpful. Let me things that can maybe be clearer, and let's try to like work on this together, and I'll try to help you learn how to craft in Path of Exile as much as possible. So thanks for watching. Sub if you liked the video. I stream on Twitch every day. More importantly, try to die less than I do.